Hello, my friends. It is Andor, and welcome back to the Knights of the Nerd Republic. You know what to do, and stay profitable.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
I got so confused there for a second as I didn't show up immediately. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Knights of the Nerd Republic, the show, your favorite nerds talk all things about the galaxy far, far away. I have a cold. It is the middle of November, which means I have a cold, which is always happens at this point. So pardon the fact that I sound disgusting, but I'm not alone. I am joined by some gentlemen who sound less disgusting and arguably are probably smarter than I am. First, we got the one-eyed knight, the lore keeper, the Italian stallion, the Conor Chiquiti.
Hello. It's been a while. Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yep. But I'm here. I'm alive.
You're here. You're alive. We're here. We're thriving. And before I introduce, I'm gonna just hit y'all with this real quick. Because with the man, the letdown, the Taco Bell hater,
this bitch.
Alden.
I was like, why am I not getting my usual warm reception, my fanfare, my sensational clip, like everything that why am I being treated like a villain? And then I remembered it's because of the Taco Bell. Yeah. Look, I pledged on Twitter at the time of this recording yesterday to M from the Kessel Run Relay podcast that the next time I was in the same location as her, I would try a Crunchwrap Supreme because I've never had one.
Change your goddamn life.
Maybe that will be the thing. Maybe the Crunchwrap Supreme will change the game and I'll suddenly like it more and come down to your level into the gutter, into the just like the swamp of life.
Here's something that's really funny. Without knowing about the conversation we had yesterday when Taylor came to visit me at work, we're getting ready to leave. She goes, "Oh, by the way, I brought you a taco from Taco Bell." Like, no idea that conversation had happened. Like, I had already made a mobile order at Sheetz so I could have some sheets after I was done on Bombadcast last night. And
you're such a predictable creature. Like
I haven't had sheets in like a month.
But it's just like not predictable in that you have a routine, but just like the things that come out of your mouth are always so on brand.
Oh my God, yeah.
I've said that to you like 3 times recently. Like that's the most Jared thing I've ever heard, and it keeps happening. I had a mobile order at Sheetz for when I was done. Like, just tracks.
I mean, you're not wrong, but yeah. So I had no idea there was like a single soft taco, sans tomato. Thank God.
We agree on that. We agree on that.
Good man. Said it made me very happy because I knew the moment I was done on Bombadcast, I was going to have to continue trolling you and Ken. And it might be one of the last tweets I ever make, depending on what happens on the Hell site, which is also so far unto itself.
It's survived. So far, it's survived.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter is largely just basically a robot, so it can kind of do its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting global collapse last night. Would have been funny, but
would have been really funny.
Speaking of things that won't lead to the inevitable apocalypse because social media is killing us all, it'll I'm just going to do like multiple segues until I get the screen share pulled up. It'll help get you through societal collapse. Some fucking Bloody Marys. I'm
Yes.
graduating from the Robert Evans School of Ad Pivots today. You guys know the drill by now. SundaysBloodyMary.com has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the galaxy. They have their 2-time award-winning spicy mix, my favorite. They also have their mild and traditional mixes, the traditional one being vegan-friendly as well. I also have some kick-ass dilly beans, pickled asparagus, and pickled okra in the way of garnishes, as well as some rim salt. And they got this cute-ass merch. Love that little tomato hat. So go to sundaysbloodymary.com/shop. Use code TNAP, TNAP at checkout. You get 10% off your order. They help out your favorite nerds while you do it. All right.
Amen.
I apologize to everybody because I'm like oscillating between I want to go to bed and like being like running on slap happy fumes. So,
I feel that.
this is the perfect vibe to talk about a show like Andor with. Episode 10 and 11. That's what we're talking about today. Alden had such glowing comments on episode 10.
That's true.
From getting to see it via some press screeners that we I knew we were going to have Alden on to talk about it.
Yeah, I kept telling you I was annoying about it, but I wanted to emphasize 10 changes the game. I kept telling everybody the end of 10, or there's something that gets said in 10. There's this speech in 10. There's 2 speeches, but just like 10 is, I think, when the show, like, it's always been Star Wars. I say this in an exaggerated way, but 10 was when it became like, fuck yeah, Star Wars. Like it kicked up into that. We're not at war yet, but it's that just everything started to crystallize. It's an incredible episode. One Way Out is the name. It's Bo Willimon wrote it, and who directed that one? Tommy Haynes was directing, and
That's
it's
correct.
wild, just a wildly good episode.
It's incredible. I loved every second of it. Again, we follow the model of like every 3 episodes is when pew pew happens. And obviously, I mean, that's a very reductive way to talk about it, and I'm aware of that. But the action of the prison break itself is just so well choreographed.
Yes.
Like there's a viciousness to a lot of the choreography in this episode that I absolutely loved. My favorite being that little maneuver from Cassian where he like comes up from the undercarriage of the lift.
It's on the lip, kicks the guy's leg out,
takes the guy's leg out, and then just like from the ground, the next guy across the way.
It's the fact that you get that back to back with the Han shot. He has a little hero shot on that guy.
Yeah,
the guy that tries to get up, and then he boom, and then when they cut over, he's standing there. Like,
yeah,
it's the evolution of Cassian Andor, the sort of just like the guy who just tried to get to the next day.
Yeah,
he's not a scoundrel. He's never a bad guy, but he's kind of he owes everybody money. He's irresponsible.
Yeah.
He's wasting his potential. This time in prison turned him into spy material because you can tell like the leadership qualities are coming out. Yeah. The leadership qualities are coming out. The plan is coming together. His ability to inspire other people, his attention to details, ideas like if I spend, because important thing to note, over a month goes by of him being in prison because they do the 30 shifts later in the previous episode. So before the revelation of what's happening on level 2, Cassian's already working on his water pipes plan. He's already taking all of his bathroom breaks and whittling away at this thing. So no matter what, Cassian Andor was going to do something. And that tells you a lot about, but then when he's able to get this new information and get Kino on his side, Andy Serkis with like one of the greatest performances in anything ever. It's incredible.
Oh my God. He absolute scene stealer here.
Yep.
It was
Andy
just such a pleasant
Serkis
surprise.
acting as like a non puppet, non CGI character is just like It's something at least I don't hear about enough usually, but it's just something I think needs
There's not
to
a
be
lot
done.
of it.
Yeah.
Black Panther's the big one, but
Yep.
he and Age of Ultron. But he used to do more of it, but I feel like once he got Gollum and King Kong and Caesar and Snoke, I was like, oh, is that like he's just the guy that does that?
Didn't he also
And
do mocap for Hulk in Age of Ultron too?
he might have. It's possible. I don't know at
Yeah.
that point if Mark Ruffalo was doing it himself or not, but yeah, it's possible while he was there that he probably threw some on and did some, but he was also like he also did like second unit directing on The Hobbit and helped with a lot of that, and I know that he did like a lot of like motion movement training. He has a whole school for this and things, and so like the guy gets like the intimacies of performance.
Unless we
but-
forget, he directed one of
yeah.
the best movies of last year, Venom: Let There Be Carnage.
Oh my God, you're right. I forgot he directed that.
He directed Venom. Wow.
Yeah,
What a weird career.
I know, right?
What a strange career. He also directed the not Jon Favreau Jungle Book. The one that's on
that's
Netflix.
right.
That's called Mowgli, which has an equally good cast. It's like both casts are perfect. Like Jon Favreau got Idris Elba as Shere Khan. Andy Serkis got Benedict Cumberbatch as Shere Khan. Like they both were like, can we outdo each other with how good these are?
Yeah.
Cast? But yeah, it's he's just great and he's amazing as Kino. And obviously the episode's been out, so people know Kino. You don't see him die. There's always hope.
Yeah,
but
I'm always going to assume he made it.
It's a
I
cynical.
like Kino Loy too much as a character to assume he's gone forever. There's about to be movement passing through, so Connor, I'm going to throw to you on overall thoughts on the episode, so I can mute myself.
It was neat.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate your input.
Sensational.
It was probably my favorite. Episode 10 is probably my favorite.
Sensational.
Overall in the show. And I think it was because, for me at least, the buildup to like the actual prison breakout had me on the edge of my seat. And I can that was genuine. Like I know that's like a figure of speech, had me on the edge of my seat, but like that actually had me on the edge of my seat because of the boots, because of the not magnetic floors, whatever.
The electrified,
the electrified kill floors.
The floor is very much lava at
what was gonna,
yes.
How are they going to pull this off? And just the music too was really just adding to that tense atmosphere for me. And so the moment when I don't even know if it's like a trope. I think it is a trope, but like a mini trope almost, when like the moment when the water goes into the floor and they turn it on and then nothing happens and it shorts out, and then Kino like has that, like there's a beat and then he's like, let's go. It reminds me of that moment from Deathly Hallows Part 2 where all the guys are rushing to the bridge where Neville's at, and like the shield's still up, but then it goes down, but then it comes down, and like the one guy like takes a really slow step, and there's like he realizes that the shield's gone, and there's a beat, and then it's just quiet, and then chaos.
Well, it's like it's that. You're right. Like I don't know if it's a trope, but it is like something you see a lot, like in action, like when characters realize that their circumstances have changed.
Yeah.
And that something else. It's even in Phantom Menace, like just the other way around. Like the way when the Gungans realize, like, oh shit, like they breached, like it's on now. Like things are different. Like the stakes are up.
Not helping. The thing that was hindering them is now gone.
Or the reverse if you're the guards. Like that was their, because as Cassian said, power doesn't panic, and they don't panic.
Such a good line.
It's amazing, yeah. And they're comfortable. Even never more than 12 on any floor, and they have 5,000 prisoners. That is peak Imperial hubris.
Oh
To
yeah.
think that never more than 12 dudes per level. We're not sure how many levels there are, but you
Yeah.
know, probably like 10 or something. Day shift and night shift. 5,000 people. As Kino says, 5,000 men. They don't have enough guards and they know it. It has to be now, as Cassian told him. Kino's speech echoing so much of what Cassian told him because Cassian is a leader. We know this guy's going to be a leader. 5 years from now, he's there at Yavin 4 with Bail and Mon Mothma and Draven. Like this is the beginning of him like becoming what Luthen told him he could be.
And I do love the and they know it part too.
And they know it. And just the way that I mean, there's a few circus moments where the first is when they after Cassian does like the "you don't have time to be stupid," and they go back into the cell block, and Cassian starts talking, trying to explain it, and Kino's just alone in his cell. The camera is right on Andy's face, and he's looking into the wall, and you can see that he's about to snap, and then he does the "no one is getting out," and everyone is quiet. It's like this is a man that has he just became a person again. Like he's not just a prisoner anymore, and it's so powerful. And it's just like, and there's other shit in this episode too. Like there's the Deidre stuff and more with Mothma, and like this episode had all the storylines. But this prisoner stuff is like it's just wild. Yeah, it's just wild.
Well, I also do want to call attention to like a common beat in Star Wars, which is the Empire being like defeated by like means of nature. Like I love that the, you know, their grand weapon to like mass kill this entire slave workforce is beaten. How? Water.
Just let water in.
Just water. Just pour some nature on the Empire.
And they
like
bastardize it too. Yeah. They bastardize nature because which they have continually done, like on Kashyyyk and like other worlds of like great resources, Endor obviously. But the water was hydro-powered engines.
Yeah.
But then once you don't control the water anymore, and it's no longer in the pipes, literally you're not being able to funnel it the way you want. It takes away all means and also the tools of the oppressors. Before they get blasters, they're throwing wrenches, drills, fucking screws, anything that they can get off of the work tables of whatever it is that they're building. And it's like, it's classic Star Wars. Like we're showing you, like even a child will understand. Like as heavy as this show is, those are the things where a kid will be like, I know something good's happening. Like I understand who it's coded. I understand who the good guys are. I understand what's happening.
Framed, you can tell.
It's really powerful, and Olaf's death sort of kicking it all off, and then moving into Cassian talking about how the Imperials are afraid. I actually just grabbed. I have notes for this episode. I normally don't take notes at all, but I have these notes because I've had to record certain things in advance and other things. So when I covered 10 wasn't out yet. So I've had to keep my brain straight. That way I don't accidentally spoil things for other episodes. So I'm looking at my notes here. And it's like when, you get that Kino beat when he's talking to the other prisoners and he says, I forget the exact line, but he's like, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just going to assume I'm already dead. And that sounds really badass without any context. But then when you have the full context, you're like, oh, it's because he understands what the one way out is. It's not just one way out like a war chant. Like it might be that for most of them. But he understands we are going to have to jump. And I am not going to be able to make it. And that is that comes in with the Luthen speech too. This idea of the Moses arc of like, not every character will get to actually get to the promised land. Like you don't actually get to be a part of it. You just get to be the ones that open the door, which is what Rogue One ends up being. So Cassian inherits that from people like Kino, from people like Luthen, which is, him and Jin at that moment. We'll talk more about that when we get into like 11 and then, eventually when the finale is out. But all of the ways that this show has made Rogue One better for me, somebody that's been not a hater. I still like the movie. Like it's a meme to be like Alden hates Rogue One, but it's like it's just my least favorite Star Wars, but that still puts it
Yeah.
above most other movies. But this
Yeah.
show has been the Kenobi of that movie. Like it has made it so much richer because every single choice that happens in that. I mean, here's an example. This isn't directly related to 10 or 11, but think about Cassian not being able to pull the trigger on Galen. How different that is now that we know that his father was hanged, his father was killed. It's like, of course he's not going to shoot her father in cold blood. Of course he's not, because he knows what that's like. And he's it's so much more humanity and everything there. It's great. And like you said, he's pilled in this prison. Like this is where it all changes. And for Melshi too, Melshi being somebody that is, he's a glup shitto in Rogue One, but now he's like a full fleshed out character.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, no Easter eggs, but a side character, side character in Rogue One, whom I
side
needed
character at
clarification
best.
on.
Yeah, at best.
I needed clarification. I'm like, everyone's talking about, Melshi. I'm like, who in the fuck is Melshi?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's there with K2, and then he's at the end. But yeah, I mean, again, Ken Knapsack, who I do casually talk with and does Force Center, he has been joking about like in like a half joking frustration. He's like, when is Tony Gilroy just going to admit that he's a Star Wars fan? When is he just going to wear a t-shirt? Like, stop acting like you're too cool for it. Because Tony, no Easter eggs Gilroy, Tony, no cameos Gilroy, Tony, I went to people on my crew and asked them to, this is something he actually said. He went to the people in the crew and asked people to set aside their reverence for Star Wars, to set aside their admiration. Is also the guy that's like, let me put in this glup from Rogue One. Let me do this. Let me have Mon Mothma, who was, as Nikki Kumar said on my show, Mon Mothma was one of the original glup shittos. In 1983, kids were just like, who's that? Like some ladies in charge, and I never saw her before. Like she has no exposition, no introduction, no nothing. She's just, hello, I'm in charge. And like that's how she is Return of the Jedi. And she's a main character here. There's episode 11, which we'll get to, but those two glup shitto ass aliens that save Cassian and Melshi and give them a ride. One of them is a partisan from Rogue One. He's like, he's in the scene when they visit Saw and Jin gets brought down the stairs before the "Have you come here to kill me?" You see that guy
did not
off
know
to the
that.
side, the one with the cybernetic eye. He's looking at a kyber crystal. Like that's a Rogue One character. Like there's audio of Tony Gilroy on a podcast correcting people about the timeline of Star Wars Rebels. This guy is a fan. He just doesn't want to admit it. And it cracks me up.
That is really funny because like, and that's the thing is that like so many people talk about like, and again, people who love to take the like hyper cynical, again, I'm going to keep reiterating it. All Star Wars is either The Last Jedi or season 2 of The Mandalorian like mindset, which again, I don't agree with that belief, but it is the pigeonholing that happens a lot across the fandom. And like, I think a lot of people put, not that praising Gilroy is undue, but the reason of he's not here just like making his action figures. He's not here playing with his action figures. He doesn't fucking like Star Wars because he's smarter than you. Is like that's why Rogue One and Andor are so good because he doesn't want to play with his fucking action figures.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's like, give me action figures from the one that I made. And then like he let the production designers, the one that Gareth Edwards made, the one that Gareth Edwards directed. You're a good company boy, Gareth, and we salute you. If only 2 other guys that were making a standalone had done what you did. It's the like the attitude of like he told people to set their reverence aside, but he also like acknowledged still like what he was doing. Like this episode is the pew pew, like you said. Like it's reductive, but it comes into play. Like it's not a coincidence too. These Imperials are not using the old E11s. They're using what the rebels will end up using. And like it's all there in the language of the story and how Star Wars it feels across 10 and 11. I know we're talking about both of them. So just to make the overall point, like in 10 and 11, we get a pew pew prison breakout with all these natural elements, using the tools of the oppressors, all these blaster fire. We get hero shots. We get glup shitto aliens. We go back to Space Miami. Melchi's got a new Space Miami shirt that looks like it's from Roosevelt's.
That's exactly what I thought.
He's got a Roosevelt's on. It's like it's the
I made me
thing.
so happy. Like Pete tagged me on that tweet. He's like, "Hey,
Dude.
look, like something Melchi got a Roosevelt." And
it looks just like that.
Yeah.
And then like Cassie's like, "Here's a blaster. I guess I'll text you. I'll talk to you when I talk to you."
My favorite, by the way, one of my favorite blasters of all time. DT19.
It's great. It's great. Yeah.
That's the one that little pluggery here. Ionized Bastards, even though Fabian has only used it once, that is the blaster he carries.
I didn't know that. That's cool. I forget which one Thawar carries because he took it off of somebody or it was given to him.
It was some like random sidearm.
It's
I specifically like that one. Yeah, the only time I've used it in Ionized Bastards so far was to use it on stun against a Deveronian Glizzy salesman.
That's right. Rest in peace, guy. Well, he's not dead, but
no,
it's a bad day for him.
Bad day. You wake up with a hell of a
head. Like it's got all that stuff. Roosevelt shirt, glup shitto aliens, and then like Luthen with the Batmobile of space with like the greatest like
oh my god,
just kicking their ass. Embarrassing. Just embarrassed an entire Imperial patrol.
I am not a ship guy.
I've never been a ship guy either. Yeah.
I can count on one hand the amount of times I'm like, oh yeah, that ship gets me randy, you know, like the same way a lot of other people get like super into their spaceships.
Yeah.
One more finger has gone up on that one hand. And
this ship
is for the Fondor.
The Fondor, which like also is not the ship's name. That's just the kind of ship that it is, which is such a Luthen thing. Like he's not a sentimental. He doesn't name the ship. Like what gets me, and this is a great point that Savi from Stardust Records, Savi and Lindsay, they made a great point when I was recording with them, that Star Wars ships always reflect the owner. It's very obvious with Lando and Han.
It's just like a lightsaber.
The way that they're
just like a lightsaber.
Yeah, the way that Lando and Han's Falcons are, and then Han takes the Falcon and it becomes what it is, and then Lando gets Lady Luck. Poe with Black One, like he's the leader of both blue and red squadrons, and he gets this black one that's like an individualized thing. What's a great example? They gave a Hera how the ghost is like a house, like it's got their rooms and everything, bunk beds, like she's like the mom. Luthen's ship is a regular hauler class ship that has fake codes to transmit, but is secretly this like weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah.
It's got weapons we've never seen before in Star Wars. Like we've seen turrets, obviously, but whatever he launched backwards at them, which was a physical something. Like
we rarely see like physical ordnance. Like it's rarely like a fragment weapon.
And then those side cannons that look like giant lightsabers, like is insane. So across all of those, if we're talking about 10 and 11 together, it's like super Star Wars. So Star Wars.
Yeah.
So all of you people that were like, it's not just good. It's not just good for Star Wars. It's actually good. Well, you're actually a jackass because this has been purely some of the most pure Star Wars ever. And now I want a whole ass Luthen prequel that plays like Arkham Asylum.
I would like briefly to show the class. I'm going to full screen myself as I need just to interrupt real quick.
Please.
I just got a friend request from one Alex Jones on Facebook. Not the one.
Wow.
But someone going by the name. And that just made my very sick day. I'm sorry to cut you off briefly, Alden.
No, please.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. But no, you're absolutely right. And I love the Fonder. Because it really does, like you made like the Batmobile comparison, like it feels like a mobile bat cave, even
Yeah.
in many ways.
Mm.
Which I absolutely love. Like plus, there's all like the tricked out toys and weaponry on it. But no, you're absolutely right. And I don't know, like it reminds me of my favorite Star Wars ship of all time, the Rogue Shadow from the Force Unleashed, which is fun
Yeah.
because what's his name? David Collins?
David
Mhm.
Collins.
Yeah, he's the
Yeah,
voice of
voices
Thunder
the
and
voices
Proxy.
and Proxy, yeah.
Mhm.
Which makes me very happy. But no, yeah, with episode 10, obviously, like we were saying, the arc with Andy Serkis's Kino Loy, fantastic. But we do get, when we're talking about Luthen, Alden, I'm just gonna give you the floor to talk about the Luthen moment.
Yeah, so let me set the stage. So I'm watching this episode and I'm watching it and it's late and I'm loving it and you're coming off of the prison breakout. So you're already on a high. You've already gotten one incredible speech. So
Yeah,
Andy Serkis's speech is somewhere between like a war speech, but it's also like it's kind of like Cap in the Winter Soldier of like trying to reach anybody that believes.
yeah.
And it has
The
all of
cost of
that
freedom
stuff.
is high, but I don't think I'm the only one who's willing to pay it.
Yeah, man. And you're just like, you want to run through a wall. Then they hit you with another speech that has a completely different energy. And I have it here. I will read it. I'm not going to do a Stellan Skarsgård impression, but
Shame.
if
If I wasn't sick, I'd have you send me the text of it, and then
No,
I'd do it as Alex.
can't.
But I'm too sick to do that right now.
No, that should be a Patreon exclusive, or just release that as its own video, just a YouTube short. People like YouTube shorts, right? I don't know what they like. So it reads,
What did it cost me? $1.45 billion.
but when he does the line like an equation I wrote 15 years ago, you need to change that into the an equation I wrote 15 years ago that says I'm plugged in the matrix. So like you need to connect that all into one line.
Yep.
Oh my god, I love that. Also, Connor, thank you for sending that TikTok the other day. As I've seen, it's been a long time since I heard that audio. It's just, I'm a patriot, I'm a liberal, Anyway, continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
These are all off-air conversations.
it begins. Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I've made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago from which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, they've set me on a path from which there is no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I looked down, there was no longer any ground beneath my feet. So what is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. And the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything. You'll stay with me, Lonnie. I need all the heroes I can get. And when I tell you that I sat there mouth agape, I could, because look, like the scene, like you're kind of thrown into it. Like you're getting the reveal that Lonnie is a plant while he's walking down there and gets in the elevator. Like you're like, oh, this is what's going on. Oh, okay. This is who they were talking about, because Clea and Luthen are like, because like he wants to meet with you, but they don't say who, and you're like, what's going on? What are we talking about?
Oh,
Who are we
that's
talking
right.
about?
The inner circle stuff.
Yeah, like he left. It's like he left a marking, and Luthen's like, that could be anything. She's like, well, there was also this, like the piece of the thing was missing. Like they have all these little signals, and he's like, well, it's been a year. I'm surprised it took him this long. And she's like, it's a trap, and he's like, well, if it's a trap, we've already lost. Which he's right.
Yeah.
Luthen is smart enough to know if the ISB really knew what they were doing, they would have just blown up his shop with him in it. Like it would be over.
I'm just gonna interrupt you because I forgot to say this the other day. By the way, I just want to say,
No, please go.
and this is a little dude broy, and maybe it's me trying to get a lightsaber in here, just one time. If they decide to like firebomb Luthen Real's shop of antiquities. I hope he goes out being like, "Oh, I always wanted to use one of these," and taking one off the rack and just. I just think,
Dude,
like,
could you
if there's any
imagine?
like character who's like not a force sensitive, but would definitely be sick with it with a lightsaber.
Yeah. Well, he's got his cane retracts into a hilt,
I know.
which you see in 11 when they take it, and he's like, put it down and give it back, or like whatever he says, like when they're searching him. Like, if could you imagine if like the other end of that ignites? It's one side of cane. It's kind of like Terra Sanube style, like cane saber. That would be so cool. But yeah, I got some theories about Luthen that we could talk about another time. But we're gonna have a long off season because Andor season 2 won't come until 2024. So there's gonna be a lot of time we're not getting Andor, the Dragon, and possibly Rings not again until 2024, which is just painful. Thank goodness we're gonna have so much Star Wars, Marvel along the way, and DC hopefully, if that James Gunn stuff works out, which I think it will. But the
Bat might.
Yeah. Speaking of, this is Knights, I know, but like James just randomly posting Lobo, Mr. Terrific, Jonah Hex. I'm like, this motherfucker.
I didn't see he posted Jonah. Oh god.
He posted Jonah Hex yesterday. Yeah. I guess it was for the anniversary, but like still. Now everything he says about DC means more. Because it's like, what are you talking about? But yeah, I mean, this speech is incredible. Like this idea that it's everything that he does as a character with Lonnie. That you almost get this idea that Lonnie's the first person that's ever asked him, maybe, or that he's the first time he's ever verbalized it, the way Stellan plays it.
Yeah.
And it's little things like even outside of the monologue part, it's the dialogue when he's like, I think about you constantly. Like, and he's like, Lonnie's logic is I need to get out because I'm a father. And Luthen, instead of that being like a humanizing thing, Luthen's like, exactly, you're a father. That's why Anto Krieger and his men need to die because I need to protect you. And it's like, it's not about, don't act like you're protecting Lonnie. Like it's just hard to see like how much human being is left in Luthen. And this speech, I think, is Luthen saying none. Like it was easy going into the show, and many of us assumed, myself included, that Luthen would be the in-between between Mon and Saw, and that he would be somewhere in the middle, not as radical, but not as chill.
Yeah.
But really, he's not that at all. He's something else entirely. He doesn't think he even belongs in the capital R rebellion. He doesn't even think he'll ever even see it. And that's why he encourages Mon. That's why he gets Andor. That's why he has Vel. That's why he gets tries to get Saw to make connections. Like, he's a fascinating character to see somebody who just thinks that they're damned. Like, it's like in Dark Knight Rises when Alfred tells Bruce, like, you only see one end to your story. But we all knew, like, now we know Bruce had some tricks up his sleeve. Like, Luthen might actually think that. Like, he might think like he's gonna just die.
Right. And you no scope this shit so hard with the Batman comparisons.
It's true. Oh, from day one, that he just gets more and more Batman.
God rest his soul. I would have kicked a baby.
I know what you're gonna say.
To hear Kevin read that.
Would have been so good. Oh, that would have been the greatest. That would have been.
I didn't even grow up with Kevin Conroy's Batman, but like that got me.
Oh, my mind is a sunless place. Yeah. Like, it is so.
From an equation I wrote 15 years ago. I'm damned for what I do.
Oh my God, it would have been
right. You just imagining it is giving me goosebumps.
It's been amazing.
And
yeah,
like again.
But then like when the fucking elevator opens and it's just the black cloak and everything, like I'm pretty sure it's the lowest we've ever been on Coruscant canonically.
Yeah,
it's like 215. It's like way down.
And I also just like with.
I mean, what level were they on in the Ahsoka arc, the Ahsoka walkabout arc in season 7?
Not that low, because you could still it was still like you could still see the
you could
like
still
coming
see
out of the
sun.
garage. Yeah.
That's right. Not the sun, but like
yeah. If you came out of the Martez garage, you could still take a bike and go up. But yeah.
You said Dark Knight Rises, like this is very like Dark Knight Returns Batman
mm-hmm.
too, which is like again, like that whole monologue feels like it could be literally sharing page space with the we do not need these are the weapons of the enemy, but like in a very funny way, like it is like the inverse of that, like I'm damned to use the weapons of my enemy, da, 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 da.
Yeah,
Like
like he's
it's
got to
very much
have
a
ISB information. He's got to give the ISB information. He's got to give and take. He's got the hit out on Cassian right now. We know he's like he's not Saw or anyone like that. He's worse. Like he sees that at least Saw Gerrera, like as he says, has clarity of purpose, and like Luthen thinks that Saw can still. He's wrong, but he thinks that Saw can still integrate and can still be. I think Luthen sees in his mind a super team where he says like, I need heroes, Lonnie. Like he sees Mando, please, we're talking about Andor. It's not everything's about you. He has this attitude of like I see Saw Gerrera, Mon Mothma, Vel, everyone together. One moment.
For me, it's like with Luthen.
Just had to hit him with the pet corrector. This is not a sponsor, but pet corrector, they don't like that sound. It's great. But yeah, like he just doesn't.
Is it like an air horn? What the fuck is it?
It's compressed air, but it's not a horn sound.
Okay.
It makes a little sound, like a little. And it makes them stop
I
barking.
assume to the dogs, to the
animals,
it's like more.
It's probably it just annoys them.
More hypersensitive to it.
Yeah. Why are you barking? There's nothing there. But yeah, so it's like he sees in his mind this vision of a sunrise, of another future, of another era. He knows the Empire will fall. He says as much in the show, like these days will end. He said that when he met Cassian. He believes, but he doesn't think he has a place in it. And I think that when Luthen envisions whatever it is, let's say Yavin 4, even though that's not a thing yet, although it might be because there's the Masasi cell. And by the time of Rebels, maybe Dodonna already has it. Luthen doesn't see himself at that table with Radis and Mothma and Saw. He thinks we know that something's still going to happen that puts Saw and Mothma on the outs badly. We don't know what that is yet, but Luthen is like did you ever watch Firefly and Serenity? Either of you?
No. I've seen Serenity. It's been a while, but I think I've seen bits and pieces of Firefly.
Okay, first of all, one of these days we're going to do a whole ass watch as a friend group. But then in Serenity, the villain, without spoiling too much of it, he's called the Operative. He doesn't have a name. He's played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. And he tells the character Mal, Nathan Fillion's character, like, I am a monster. What I do is evil, but it must be done. He's like, in the service of a better world. He's like, I have no place in the better world, and I know that. And that level of zealotry, but for the good side, is such an interesting thing to unpack.
It's bastard Batman.
Mm-hmm. And how much, like Luthen
is worse.
Luthen is Batman if Batman broke the no-kill rule and was like, I'm done. And maybe there should be a Justice League, but I'm not going to be a member. And I'll try to put it together and then leave. Which is almost what Snyder was attempting to do. Not to get into that conversation, but like the way that Ben Affleck's Batman talks about the Justice League as an idea, like before they have a name, like when he does like the whole like, he's I forget the fucking line, but it ends in like the not all of us united, or like whatever. Like the way that he tells Aquaman, like, I'm putting together an alliance. I need warriors. Like all of that. Like that's sort of what Luthen is right now. And his heroes are your Vels and Mothmas and all these different people that have their own shit going on. Because Mothma's been building resistance since the deleted Revenge of the Sith scenes. Her, Padme, and Bail were starting to resist. And he's brought that in and tried to network it. So to see that angle on it all, and we haven't talked about the Mothma stuff, but like in this episode is when she gets the Davos Skulden offer of like, yeah, I'll give you $400,000, but we gotta marry our houses together, and how everybody is forced to sort of compromise who they are just a little bit in the service of good. Everyone's hands are dirty.
And to
Everyone.
expand on that a little bit going into episode 11, I do think it's a really fascinating decision to make Mon Mothma's like moral quandary one that has way more to do with her than her daughter. Because her daughter, like we
Yeah.
see, like is already kind of pilled into the
Oh,
old ways.
dude, she's super
Mhm.
pilled.
She's
Like her
like
daughter's like
She's in a far right
yeah,
even
Chandrilla Anon,
organization.
you know, like
even her husband, she says, like, even Perrin, asshole as he may be, is still not even about that. Like, as she says, like, Vel's like, is this Perrin? She goes, no, he's surprisingly, I forget what she says, surprisingly
Open-minded.
liberal, open-minded, yeah. And it's like it's that youth thing of like really liberal parents. Sometimes they get the reverse rebel child that ends
yeah.
up being wanting
Where
to be more conservative.
instead of being a hippie kid, you end up with some kid who's like, I love Steven Crowder.
Yeah, exactly. And her daughter, like, so that's the thing is
There's
that
no such thing as hate speech.
in the God, but when the in the
I'm having knob flashbacks, Connor. You can't do that to me right
That
now.
wasn't me. That was Andrew. My co-host
Jared's
Andrew
weak.
said that.
Jared's
yesterday
weak.
when we recorded.
But yeah, like this idea of the way that in 10 it's like it's Mothma's choice, and like does she damn her daughter to this system that we know has already kind of ruined her life, this arranged marriage stuff and all that, in the service of the greater cause. But now with episode 11 it adds that extra layer of, oh, your daughter would be fine with it, but your daughter, like, you can make the right decision for the rebellion and do this marriage thing and possibly gain some. Your daughter would probably actually like you more if you did the shitty thing. And that's the irony, is that if Mothma does this very traditional, no agency, no freedom, arranged marriage bullshit, she would gain the respect of her daughter, but it would be a dirty respect tied to dirty money. If she did the right thing and refused the dirty money, she would be in an even worse place with her kid than she already was.
Yeah.
She would have a clear conscience, but she would be risking the cause.
Yeah.
So both sides have
which
dirtiness.
is so much, which is like,
have,
and I remember watching the episode and like, scumbag skullduggery or whatever the fuck his name was.
Davos Golden.
I was trying to be funny. But I know. Like that whole like, I'll give you 40 million for your daughter scene was like, oh yeah, this is like a surprisingly open and shut case for this show, you know. And you followed up with seeing that, you know, little lady Mothma's kind of into the whole weird movement they got going on, and it's jarring and disappointing in many ways. And I don't know, man. I love it.
Because like for me at least, when she said I found the elder, I thought that was her saying like, yeah, this is pretty much gonna happen.
Yeah, and the way that Vel like is like horrified because obviously she's gay in a heteronormative society, which we already touch on in 10 or in episode 9 when she visits. Like,
yeah,
you find a husband yet? And like Mothma's giving her that little look, like he doesn't know you're queer. Like you get the idea that like they've had a whole life together, and I would love like some young Mothma and Vel books and shit like that. That'd be great, but. This idea of the proposals and everything, and Mothma's like, it's out of my hands. She loves this stuff. Like she's really into Jesus, like the elder being this Chandrilling god, like whatever that is. And someone pointed out, it might have been the Stardust Records hosts, I forget, but that like Ben Solo grows up on Chandrilla before he goes with Luke. So it's like Ben Solo grew up around some of the most judgmental and shitty and devout and like that. Now that we know more about that culture, it's like, yeah, he was only there for like early childhood, but still, like that
makes an effect. And it's an interesting decision. And I wonder, like, I want more stuff about Chandrilla really badly. Just I want it to be expanded upon more, because there's a part of me that's really disappointed to see that like Chandrilla is this weird like fundamentalist society.
Same.
Because like when I hear Chandrilla, I think that's Mon Mothma's home world, which means that
thought it was a utopia.
Bastion. It had to have been a bastion for the rebellion. You know,
but that's the thing is that like I guess what they're saying is, I agree. I thought it was too, but then I started to think about it, and I'm like, you know what? It had to be this way because we have Alderaan, and you can't just have two
True.
Alderaans. Like you need Coruscant, Alderaan, Chandrila, and Hosnian to all feel different.
That's
And we
true.
haven't gotten a lot of Hosnian yet. And I'm sure we'll get more Hosnian
I
storytelling.
mean, there's
as the
lots of
years go on.
Hosnian floating out there somewhere.
Oh, there's a whole ass systems where the rubble. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to have done so much with a planet that we don't even see in the show. Just you hear the Elder, the pilgrimage, the proposals,
The fucking
the academy, like the
the
everything
incantations that we see her daughter doing,
Mhm.
and the fact that like the thing I really love too to add on to this is like
Mm.
when Mothma said like this is the only thing that she shows up on time for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like you know that it's shitty, but you also are trying to be a good parent,
Yeah.
and you're like it's forcing like Mothma
It
again.
sucks that she's devoted to this, but also it's like she knows that she has devotion to something.
Yeah.
which
Completely
Mothma could
like
understand, and Mothma like that's why Gilroy said she was like Pelosi. Like he wasn't saying her politics are like Pelosi's politics, but he's saying this is someone who's like, I can do everything on the inside, realizing you can't. Your hands will get dirty. And by the
and
time,
now she's probably going to step down.
yeah, and by the time of Rebels, she's on the run and she's alone and has no family. There's never her family's never. I think Perrin and Lita are like Perrin's referenced in some like 90s RPG source book or something. I think Lita is too. The idea that Mothma did have a family was a pre-existing thing from Legends, but very, very like if ever were they
Very
named.
loose.
Yeah, very loose. But in like in Princess and the Scoundrel, one of the first people that Leia tells outside of Luke that she's getting married is Mon. And Mon is so happy for her and is like so like she's like, you're gonna marry that rogue. Like, I'm so happy for you, and like gives her a hug like a mom. And she's like, I know, I'm sorry that Bale and Brea couldn't be here, and they have this beautiful moment. And now knowing that she kind of lost a daughter, even if she's still alive, it's like they're probably not speaking. Lita probably marries this guy and then knows her mom is some radical like criminal, like probably doesn't speak with her. But by the time of Return of the Jedi, it's like we've seen that Mon has accepted, what to whatever degree, or even by the time of Rogue One, like she's got Draven working for her, who is Cassian's boss, and it's like you get the idea that Draven's kind of in charge of the wet work, and it's like Mothma, she might not condone any of it, but she understands that they're at war. And by the time of Jedi, it's like here Mothma is struggling with like banking, right? By the time of Return of the Jedi, who are her generals? Known criminals like Han Solo and Lando Calrissian. Like,
Yeah.
so
And a
she's
defector like Crix Madine.
and a defector like Crix Madine, and a defector like Wedge Antilles, and like she has a motley crew by the end, and this is her journey toward that is realizing what a found family is, but also that it's going to take all sorts, and that one shady money deal, no matter how personal it is only the beginning for her.
Yep.
This show's so goddamn good.
It's so good. Yeah, I mean, like, so that's everything. Like in 10, I mean, we had there's Marva continues to get sick and everything. Obviously in 11 she's passed away. I guess I don't have anything else on 10 really.
Thank you to Andor for not making us watch that happen, by the way.
It's an interesting choice, right? Like to keep it. Cassian doesn't get to see it, neither do we, right? It's sort of like it's impersonal. He feels regret. He hears about it over the phone.
Yeah.
Like when he thinks he's on his way back, and he goes and he had to go back to Miami because
get his blickies and his money.
Yeah, yep, his money and the manifesto is there.
Oh yeah! Oh my god! I squealed like a little girl.
I was so happy.
I made so many happy noises when I heard Nemec's precious little voice.
Yep. It's gonna be It's gonna be intense.
You know
And
what?
the
You know what? We're throwing it up for Nemec. We're throwing it up for Nemec. All right, there we go.
Comrade Nemec, the whole anthem starts to play. Dude, you should
not a
that
tank,
should be
I
your
promise.
when you go to Celebration, Jared, that should be your cosplay, Comrade Nemec. Just like wear his outfit but in full Russian colors.
Red Sun Nemec.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I mean 11's full of great shit. I love that if we're
I
just
love when
going by
Mama
like
says, "I found a solution." It's like,
mhm.
all right, the
Well,
fuck is it?
when she's talking to Vel, yeah, and then she's like crying, but then
Dude, Genevieve
yeah,
O'Reilly's acting there,
she's
like
insane.
the
She's
fact that
insanely good.
the fact that she had that like absolutely distraught face for like that whole scene is insane. And again, we've talked about it before, but like George Lucas just being like, yeah, she seems like she'd be a pretty good actress for this role. Just casting just absolutely unknown people. And then like 10, 15 years down the line, they're coming back in like new material and getting
And
like
crushing it
really
left
good,
and
yeah,
right.
crushing it. George Lucas, man, what the hell? How did he do like
George, man.
the gift
George
of unintentional prophecy?
George is out there. George is out there just I wonder if he watched Andor and he's like, yeah, this is what I was doing. Like in the same way that like when he visited the volume for the first time and everyone was like expecting him to be like really proud of them, like a happy dad, and George is like, yeah, this was my idea. This is what we were gonna build. Like he's so like you cannot please this man. One of my favorite fucking clips ever is in the Mandalorian season 2 behind the scenes when he goes to show George it might be in season 1 actually. He goes to show George the pulse rifle and he's like, look at Favreau, he's like, oh, look at it. It's just that's the rifle. And George is like, oh yeah, he's like, it's from the holiday special. George like doesn't react and he's like, you made that. And he's like, yeah. Like he just does not you cannot get joy out of it.
Like,
George Lucas is an
well,
American written by a British person. Like he's like in terms of like the comedy, just yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
like there are
Uh-huh.
a few times where it's really funny to see George smile, and I remember one of the times it's like his wedding day with his wife.
Mhm.
And it's just like I wonder how his wife like gets him happy.
Well,
Like how?
there was the story early on in the COVID-19 pandemic, which I think I've said before, maybe even here on night. So I'm gonna say it again. So like early in the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm even gonna Google it just to make sure I get the fucking quotes right. This man, George Lucas, uh, he is married to Melody Hobson, who is an American businesswoman and is like boku rich, like even on her own. Like real quick, for those of you that don't know, Melody Hobson, George Lucas's current wife, is the co-CEO of Ariel Investment, the chairwoman of Starbucks. She's the former chairwoman of DreamWorks Animation. She was with NBC Universal until 2016. She's the first African American woman to head the Economic Club of Chicago. She's also the chair of the board of directors of Starbucks, making her one of the most high-profile corporate directors in the United States. She was on Forbes' 100 most powerful women. So
She's got a resume.
George, you did well. I think Oprah, Winfrey, for those of you playing at home, she said that what she was
Don't make me
holding up.
laugh, man. I can't barely chuckle without coughing. No.
She was at a party. She said that Melody walked in with George Lucas, and she didn't know that they were together, and that all these like powerful ass women were like, "Is that George Lucas, like the Star Wars guy?" That's who Melody's dating. But anyways, George Lucas, Melody Hobson. It was the COVID lockdown when COVID first came in. Oh yeah, Melody Hobson got life-changing quarantine advice from her husband George Lucas. So yeah, so it says hasn't changed during social distancing. Blah 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 blah. Let's see. I apologize for this very bad radio. But where the fuck is She talks in this interview about. Okay. Okay. Jesus Christ. It says, this is in the Wall Street Journal. What's one piece of advice you've gotten that's guided you? She said, I would say during this period, there's actually one piece of advice. The joke I make with people is that I married Yoda's dad. My husband is very, very wise. And in the early days of being locked down inside, I was a little whiny. And he looked at me one day and he said, you know, Melody, Europeans lived in bunkers for 5 years during World War II. That just hit me super hard. He was like, just think about that. Bombing all around you, rations, 5 years. It's been a week and you have everything you need. I was disappointed in myself. And a couple days later, it crept back in and he looked at me and said, George Lucas looked at her and said, how long did Anne Frank live in that attic? 2 years. I looked it up and then she died. And then he took it a step further and said, and you're not in a Syrian camp right now. It's like one of those things that anchor you in, all the gifts you have and all the gratitudes you should feel. Even though I know people are really struggling right now, we're not in a war camp. We do have to look at the positives here. Bombs aren't dropping. And that perspective has really, really, really helped me. So I just wanted to share that because
Wow.
that's what that apparently is what it's like living with George Lucas. Is
I
that
love that George hasn't gotten any fucking normaler in his old age.
He's gotten weirder.
George will be like, why are you complaining? There are horrible things happening in history and now, and like,
Alden, you have not had the distinct pleasure, to my knowledge, of being on air at the same time as one Mr. Mike Doling, but that's some Doling shit.
Yeah, that's
It's so funny.
To just
It's my favorite thing ever. That quote got me through the early part of the pandemic. It's so funny. Oh, anyway, I say all that to say he probably loves Andor. If he's watched
I'm sure he does. Oh my god,
yeah.
absolutely.
If he's watched it, yeah.
He probably saw Kenobi, probably saw Andor, probably.
Do you think he free Disney Plus subscription?
I feel like
better.
This is just some random thing. I feel like his wife has a Disney Plus subscription and he doesn't, but he just like.
But he has a profile on it.
Yeah,
he has a profile,
and it's a
but
Star Wars picture.
his icon is not a Star Wars character. His icon is not a Star Wars.
Yeah,
character.
that would.
Oh yeah, his icon is probably like
on brand.
It's probably
Nat
like
Geo. It's from
like
National
Donald
Geographic. Like yeah, Donald or some shit like that. But
one of the classic Disney characters.
Yeah, so I derailed us, but I feel like that was worth it.
No, it was very much worth it. We needed it.
But episode 11, Jared, lead us, because I feel like we talked about everything in 10.
I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't like super blown away with 10 or with 11 rather.
Granted,
Granted,
it's a bridge. It's a bridge episode.
It's a bridge. You know, it's teeing up a lot of what's to come. I feel like the highlights of the episode are absolutely just the quiet tenderness of Diego Luna
And B2 emo.
Well, that like him saying goodbye to Melshi with that, like, you know, hopefully I'm sure we'll see each other again type conversation. You know, Melshi is protected as he is daring mighty things in his Roosevelts.
Yep.
The one episode where I'm not wearing one, I knew it. I have a shirt that kind of looks like it too, that I didn't put it on.
They need to make that shirt.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. I listen, when it comes to like the Star Wars Roosevelt stuff, the day at the meetup in Atlantic City when I saw Steve in the fucking Return of the Jedi VHS cover shirt, I was like, everything's on the table now. There's nothing is off limits. I'm surprised. Pardon me. We did not get a Life Day collection yesterday. Because I'm convinced it's coming.
The embracing of Life Day by Lucasfilm has been one of the best things of the Disney era. Every year it gets bigger, and I just know that one of these days these crazy motherfuckers are going to upload it to Disney Plus. I know they're going to.
Oh, someone's getting ready. There's no way
they're going to either upload it or like
it's in drafts.
I remember that like Jon Favreau, I think a few times has said like I wouldn't mind doing like another holiday special. Like,
dude, we're at the time of this recording, we're a week out from the Guardians holiday special.
Yeah.
And I feel like if that is as big a hit as I think it's going to be, and all the early reviews say it's amazing, I think that will give them the confidence to do a canon. Like, you don't need to take that first one and do that story, but why not do Alden Ehrenreich and Chewie go to his house for a 40-minute special? Like, you fucking kidding me? Like that would be so fucking wholesome, and people would fucking love that.
And again, it
I need
adds to the
Alden Ehrenreich
smorgasbord
back.
of Star Wars again as well. Like
Mhm.
again, Andor will forever. You get to do with Andor what people have done with Clone Wars by itself, where you get to be like, oh, here's this like silly gag where Jar Jar
Mhm.
falls down.
Yeah.
Your favorite Star Wars character just committed a fucking heinous war crime.
Yeah, yeah, like it's yeah,
3PO and
yeah.
R2 got lost on the way to getting cake.
Well, that's why I tweeted the other
And
day,
they were
like,
kidnapped and they had their fucking memory wiped.
I
Like,
think that like Luthen's speech and Zeb and Ezra looking for fruit is happening at the same time because that's Star Wars. Like that
yeah.
is like I worded this the other way, and I don't know how to articulate it in a way that doesn't sound funny, but I'm being dead ass serious when I say this. The two Star Wars things that illustrate the slow creep of fascism the best and the most are
I heard you
Andor
say this.
and fucking Resistance. Like
Yeah.
the most serious one and the most slapstick goofball fucking. There's someone with a vacuum cleaner, like kid show on Disney. That's all of season 1 of Resistance is Doza and the slow creep of the First Order and the policing and everything that's happening and ignoring the problem and all that and all the trauma of the previous war. Like they've done the kids version. Now this is sort of the PG-13ish version, but they are the same.
Yeah.
And it's like Andor is not doing things that Star Wars has never said before. It's saying them louder and in a more direct way than they have been said. In the same way that, like, I've used Black Panther as the example. I think it's the best example. Black Panther is a superhero origin. It's Hamlet. It's Lion King. It's Heavy as the Head that wears the crown. It's Sins of the Father. It's the royal family infighting. It's all these classic stories. It just finally said them that way, with that lens, with that community, with that cast, with people of color. Andor is not saying, it's not like suddenly Star Wars tackles X. Watch the fucking prequels. It's been tackling it.
Yeah.
It's
tackled in a
this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's direct.
More like open way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, this is
episode
where you
11,
can have
like
conversations about like a maturity level that does not degrade the rest of the tapestry. Here we go to Apple Pay. Alden, let me get my phone. I said his word, but this is a more mature Star Wars than what we're used to, and it is what it is. Like it's depicting horrible like the prison industrial complex and like horrible torture and things like that. And I'm gonna cough so somebody else.
The thing I like about Andor a lot is that although it's not really my corner of Star Wars, which is the Jedi and the Force and all the mystical aspects and all that, I really like how it's carving out that corner of you're seeing people with basically everyday lives just kind of react to fascism, but also just trying to like live out their lives in that. And just like in pretty much every way, it's all just regular people. And like for the vast majority of Star Wars stories, we don't really get that. I know there's a few, I think, in the books and comics, but like on screen at least, this is like one of the first ones I can think of outside of like Clone Wars arcs and whatnot.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And like just like you're saying with like normal people, like you don't get more normal than like this group of people. Like the only
people
mysticism,
like Kino and people
like the only mysticism we've gotten is the Kyber crystal necklace that Cassian wears into the Aldani.
Yeah, and Luthen just says it's important to him, and even that is like that's something I love that you brought that up. The Sky Kyber, it hasn't come back, and it's not as big a factor in the season as I thought it would be. But even then, when you get Luthen's speech in episode 10, he's saying all these things about himself, But it's like, does he believe them in his heart of hearts, or is there 1% of him that still holds on to hope? Because despite everything, even he has that one object that he feels sentimental about. And and what was that object represent? It's from when they defeated the Rakatan Empire. And it's like he
But again,
has,
there's no Easter eggs, guys.
but there's no Easter eggs. Yeah.
None.
He had, like, again, I said, if I could go back to myself in 2006 when I was watching Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest and tell my kid self that the motherfucker playing Bootstrap Bill Turner was going to be in a live action Star Wars TV show one day, then I have to explain that there's going to be a live action Star Wars TV. And then I tell him that he's going to be making KOTOR references on my TV on a digital Disney channel. That sounds made up, but it's real. And that's the world we live in now. And he has still something in him that, again, it's like you said, like end of the road, Dark Knight Returns Batman went so far that even Green Arrow was like, dude, you're a fascist. But he still had that tiny bit of humanity, that last heartstring. And I think Luthen does have that. He just needs to see something or hear something, or something needs to go right or wrong.
And it's really interesting because, like, I'm yet to fall on a side on this, because normally, and granted, like, this is very much informed, coming back to Batman, talking about Luthen, this is so informed by how, like, the modern pop culture perception of Batman is dark, gritty, edgy, brooding, violent, lunatic. And, like, that's why I love the Batman so much, is that, like, the movie's resolution is Bruce realizing he's more than that, and that he needs to be more than that. And I don't know if I want Luthen to be more than this or not. You know, like, part of me's kind of like loving living with Luthen as a character in the same way that I lived with Batman as a character when I first became a Batman fan, of loving because I'm Batman, Agamemnon contingency Batman, of loving Dark Knight Returns. I beat the shit out of Superman, Batman.
Yeah.
That it's like, I am this, like, god of a man, and fuck you for crossing me. And I part of me feels like I want Luthen to stay in this place. Part of me wants Luthen, like, your whole assessment of the monologue, which is 100% accurate. Part of me wants him to be right.
Yeah, that he doesn't have a place. I think that
part of me,
my long-term prediction for him is that I don't think it's going to be as easy as, like, because he doesn't see himself making it to the better days, whatever that is. Why? And I think an easy answer would be like, maybe Luthen is dying, maybe he has, like, space cancer, like, I don't fucking know. But, like, I think that the more, like, in character thing for him is that I think he sees in all his chess maneuvers some sort of radical fucking move that we're gonna see at some point. And I think that he might, like I keep joking, but I do mean it. Like, what if Luthen tries to fucking pull a gun on Palpatine or something?
I want you to be right so bad.
That would be sick.
I remember when you said that on Star Wars Explains live stream.
Yeah.
And I was like, God damn.
He, like, and someone did try. There's that Star Wars annual issue where that one rebel spy does try to kill Palpatine.
Yeah. And then he gets radicalized,
horribly tortured, and, like, all that shit.
Nebray, baby.
Yep. And it's like, even if it's not Palpatine, maybe, like, someone like Masameda. Like, I think that Luthen will go down bleeding out. Like, he's not gonna have a peaceful.
What if he gets killed by Cassian?
I've thought about that too. Someone tweeted that to me as well. There's a Firefly episode that has a similar thing. Like,
yeah, I think a friend
via circumstances.
Yeah, that's what someone I was texting to about Andor. He said that what if Cassian has to kill Luthen to tie up a loose end, and he's ordered to by Mon Mothma, and that's, like, one of the first quote things that he has to walk away from.
But Luthen might even be proud of him, like, in that moment, like,
be very
which,
Beckett
like,
and Han,
exactly, where Beckett's like, I would have shot you, and Han's like, I know. Like, they still have a respect even as he dies. And it's interesting. And, like, and episode 11 dealing so much with grief and with Marva's spirit hanging over the episode, and obviously B2 Emo is amazing and Brasso is amazing, and the way that like what you hold on to and what you forget sort of plays into Star Wars so much.
The axe
Giving
forgets, but the tree remembers.
But the tree remembers. Fuck yeah! Which is still that line is one of the theses of the show. Like it's hanging through everything, and the fact that Ferrix, which was already a really cool planet, now we find out what they do with their dead. Like we
That's
cremate you
sick.
and we put you into
It's
a brick.
wild.
And
I
you
was
are
like,
part
God
of the,
damn,
like,
that is hardcore.
Like I
it's
love that
so
genuinely.
cool. Like the
Like, I
town.
need that to happen to me now.
Connor, I'll make that happen for you. In fact, if you subscribe to the Teen App Patreon, we'll make the last tier getting Connor a funerary brick.
Maybe I'll walk out of here tomorrow and you never see me again. That's really what I want to do.
Like my the way I always wanted to like go out is like be cremated and then have my ashes be strung out, you know, put out on the water like in the Big Lebowski. But like now the Ferrix brick thing is making me reconsider that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Connor, I cannot believe you said any of those words just now.
Those words in that order. Oh, that's funny shit.
An unpredictable man sometimes.
I just think it'd be really neat if I got to be a fucking brick. That'd be dope.
Because it's like you sort of, because I think with the Ferrix brick thing, it's like,
Connor, if you go before me, I'm gonna hold you up in brick form and just be like, "Hi, I'm Connor. Isn't it dope? I'm a brick." Like, just
isn't it dope that I'm a brick?
And I'm gonna put one googly eye on it.
That's gonna be written in Orabesh on the brick. Isn't it dope? I'm a brick.
It's pretty
and people
neat.
are gonna be like, "Oh, that probably says something so beautiful." Like, real quick,
it's just so cool because it's like, your death will help contribute to the foundation of future generations.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're actually a part
super
of home.
based.
You're
Like,
part of
super
the home.
based. Yeah.
Yeah, like you are, like the town means something, and
You're part of the legacy.
they can't take that from you, and that's
course,
something
yeah.
that I love about a lot of Star Wars in terms of like it's been represented in different ways, like how there's the stained glass in the Theed Palace of Amidala, even down into like the New Republic era, and like an obvious one is, you know, the Skywalker sabers on Tatooine. Like you give back to home. That's very mythic.
Forever.
And then she stayed there forever and kidnapped BB-8, and like
It was on the Lars Homestead. Dumbest thing ever.
The dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. This is not if you dislike Rise, you're wrong. I respect anyone that doesn't like it, but that I do not respect.
It's my least favorite Star Wars movie for a myriad of reasons, but that is just the
dumbest interpretation of that. That makes Rey a bad person. She would have kidnapped BB to just taken him to a desert planet just to chill. That is, I don't understand.
My favorite thing about that interpretation of it is like, I love the new version of all the movies that gets opened up by saying that, because like now part of me wants to be like, oh, so you just thought like Luke moved into the fucking woods?
Yes. What does that mean? Like, or that like. That all
Luke just hangs out with the Ewoks and some ghosts now. Like that's just
lives
Luke's
there.
whole thing.
Yeah, let's just take the ending of every Star Wars movie that's applicable and just say they never leave that place ever.
Like Anakin and all the Jedi, they don't leave. No.
Yeah, like Anakin. Yeah, like Anakin did all 10 years of his training between movies on Naboo because that's where he was at the end of Naboo.
Yep.
It's the dumbest shit.
It's the same dumb logic can be applied.
Yeah.
Like, Empire Strikes Back. They stay on that ship. They don't go.
It's crazy shit. It's ridiculous. We got 2 more things to talk about in episode 11, though.
Yeah.
Luthen.
Not that I'm the host of the show, but yeah, I wanted to. Well, real quick, before we get to that,
I'm glad you're like on. You're more on than I am.
It's just because I have notes that I'm able to do this. I normally can't call. It's because I've had to step again. Not to be like, but like at the time of this recording, I've seen the finale, so I'm people that are watching this. Like I'm being very careful with what I say
Yeah.
and like try to stick to things because I know what happens. But so we have Vel and Clea, which was a great scene. It reads like they're ex-girlfriends, and I love that. And there is so much beef going on there, and you get that moment of, what have you done lately? I gave him Aldani, and she says, I don't have lately. I have always. That was like, damn! Like you just walked into that shop, got roasted.
It is now defunct, and it disappoints me. But there was this podcast I listened to called No Skips, and every week they would be like, doing a breakdown of a hip hop album, the greatest of all time that has no skips. And they had a segment called "Damn, That's Hard as Fuck."
Yeah, this is that.
Damn, that's hard as fuck. A part of me wants to go back and retroactively "Damn, That's Hard as Fuck" segment to every episode of Andor, because you could have. There is at least one line of dialogue that you can "Damn, that's hard as fuck" for every single episode in this series so far. Episode 10 would have been the most difficult to deduce for obvious reasons. But Vel wins to get
like
the "Goddamn, that's hard as fuck" award for,
because like she doesn't have like with Vel and like with Cinta and Skeen, like we've seen everybody, like for the most part, everyone in the show we've been able to see what they do or what they're about to a certain degree. Clea has been the most mysterious, but you get the idea that she's done the hardest shit. Like she's the one that gets the kill order on Cassian. Like she doesn't do anything aggressive, but her energy is super aggressive.
Yes.
She feels threatening. She's the only one that ever talks back to Luthen. Like you get the idea that she's probably like in Rogue One, you get that line from Cassian where he says like assassins and saboteurs and all that. Like my vibe of her is that she's like the Ezio of like Coruscant. Like she puts that red hood on and she probably goes around just killing motherfuckers. Like who knows? Like she's super.
You may not be far off. I love that read on it. But yeah, like I said, I don't have a lot for episode 11. Like it was
the only thing I have is just the Luthen and Saw scene. Like,
oh my god,
we gotta talk about that.
No, that is something I wanted to talk about. Thank you for bringing that up. I really thought what was me and Alden's favorite line from the trailer or interaction from the trailer was going to be way more revelatory, because the trailer frames it in this like
Saw is saying something Luthen hadn't considered.
Like it feels like the underground, more like grimy version of the "'cause there's more of us, Poe." That in the trailer,
like in the trailer, it was we didn't know who Luthen was. So in the trailer, it was like, whoa, is this Stellan Skarsgård character? Like, is Saw telling him how it is? And like, really, no.
This is what we're gonna do.
They're debating and like Forrest Whitaker,
Space John Fetterman to die.
Yeah. Like he really is Fetterman. Like that one image we get of him.
I love Eli from I almost said Around the Galaxy, from Star Wars in a Galaxy, and Epic Confrontations. Connor's other boss. Connor's 3 bosses. All of us are different levels of incompetent. And we love him very much for putting up with us. Eli put that in our Discord, and I almost shit my pants laughing. It was so funny.
I tweeted it out.
What was that?
I tweeted it out.
Oh, I didn't know you tweeted it too. I'm gonna retweet it then so people can see it.
Yeah, I think I tweeted it out last night because it was just so funny to me, and I was like, "Fuck it."
Like the longer you look at it, the funnier it gets of the side by side.
Yep.
Because didn't Eli use a picture of like Fetterman in a suit, like one of the 3 that exist?
I think so.
Or is it Fetterman in his like natural habitat wearing Carhartt and shorts?
It might have been. I can't remember actually. It's a good question. But like the thing with the Saw scene in this episode, it's just a complete 180.
Yeah.
Like, because Saw was just like Anto Krieger, like he's like Krieger's a separatist, and then he just has that like wonderful rant, and then like immediately, Luthen comes in, and Saw's like, "I'll do it. I'm in. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's
And
like,
I just love that. Like, well, what's great is that it's what's great is that when Vel gets to his shop, he's gone, and you're not, and he goes to see Saw. But the idea that the second he walks in, Saw says, "I'm in." Like that tells you that he probably contacted Luthen and made him go all that way just to be like, "Hey, I changed my mind." Like it's so Saw Gerrera. Like you have to come to me.
yeah,
And I love that Two Tubes and the other guards are like, just so you know, he's acting a little fucky today. This is one of his days. And Forrest Whitaker is, I mean, the guy's an Academy Award winning actor. Like, we know he's incredible. But the way that he has played Saw differently every time he's played him, he's a little bit
yes,
different in Fallen Order than he is
yes,
in Rebels, and he's different here than he is in Rogue One. People that know the timeline well will point out, as they should, the book Rebel Rising is probably only a few months before this. So he's very recently been burned by one of his own and ditched Jin. That is pretty recent for him. And so he's extra not trusting. And I love the whole like, are you ISB? Do you have someone here? What's going on? And I love that
No,
Luthen's
it's
like,
Tubes.
yeah, it's
Is that
Tubes.
the- is that the-
Tubes shit himself in that moment. Like,
Well, and I love what you were saying too. The Tubes is like, hey, he's in a mood. Like
yeah.
that's the subtitle. That's what the subtitles say. He's in a mood.
Mhm.
And
like,
Luthen's just like, of course he is. Okay,
and
fine.
Luthen just does it just so he can grab Tubes' blaster, and he knows how Saw will respond. That's why he's a great spy master. Like he's like, Saw Gerrera is so he's so Saw Gerrera that I can pull a gun on him to de-escalate the conversation.
Yeah.
Like it will calm him.
Fuck you, Alden.
It will get him to actually like, let's be reasonable. And he's right. Like if I was ISB, wouldn't I just let you go?
yeah,
Wouldn't I let you go get killed? Like it, and it's Saw realizing, as much as Saw tries to be forthright and has been since the Clone Wars, it's like
Clarity of purpose.
Saw Gerrera in this moment, much like Mon Mothma. What I love is that everyone has to dirty their hands a little bit. And for Saw, his version, like he doesn't have a daughter or someone to marry off, although he did have Jin
his
kind of as
version
an
of
adopted daughter.
dirtying his hands is not getting involved.
Not helping another rebel. His version of dirtying his hands is Saw Gerrera is now complicit in the protecting of an ISB mole. And like, how much must that bother him to be like,
yeah,
it
ugh,
probably
like
eats
it
him at his
must,
core.
yeah, and it's the seeds of paranoia. Like he can still be reasoned with, and then by the time of Rogue, missing limbs, can't breathe,
Yep.
immediately
Do we
thinks that
think
she's
this
there to
is-
kill him.
Do we think this is the first time, like ever, that we see Saw really, really start to get paranoid? Like that this is the start of it?
I think this is the he's paranoid in Rebel Rising, which is before this, but it's
Okay.
more of like an observant. Like he's like somebody, like, he gets these vibes and these clues that someone might know that that's the daughter of Galen Erso. Like he's always had it sort of in him, and even in Bad Batch, like he's not paranoid in Bad Batch, but you can see that like when the Batch visits him at his camp, he's already like, yeah, this Empire shit ain't gonna happen. Like we're like he's immediately like ready to go. So paranoia is kind of built into who he is, I think. But
Okay.
it just
It
gets
just
worse and
hasn't-
worse and worse and
It
worse
just
and
hasn't
worse.
come
Like,
out in that way.
yeah,
until
like
this
even when
episode.
like even when Cal meets him in Fallen Order, like he doesn't act too weird, but Cal is like, yeah, like this is the guy, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden it's like, oh, he left, he ditched everybody.
He
Like,
ditched everybody and he did some fuck shit.
yeah,
the
so
way
he's
out.
always had a little bit of like that asshole
Yeah.
energy in him, which like knowing that it builds to something that makes him completely
Yeah.
not workable, whatever that is. And I'm assuming in season 2, maybe.
This
but-
is kind of a non sequitur. I wonder if people's like perception of Saw Gerrera as like being bad actually has more to do with his paranoia than his methods. I think if Saw Gerrera had like a good head on his shoulders and wasn't like bug fuck crazy.
If it was Luthen, basically, in terms
Yeah.
Where his
Like
head
if he
like he
if
makes viewers and readers uncomfortable, and people don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah, like I think it's less to do with I'm a violent revolutionary. Because like people don't bat an eye at like the terrorist attack that was blowing up the Death Star.
or the Ewoks being cannibals, or not
Yeah,
cannibals, but being willing to eat their enemy. Yeah,
like Saw's just fucking nuts. So
Yeah.
we talk about him like he is more radical than his contemporary, which he is, but like
yeah.
the being crazy and the being a radical thing are not mutually exclusive to
No,
each
because
other. Yeah.
Luthen, as we've seen, Luthen will kill a loose end, and Luthen, like,
Yeah.
will Luthen blow up blow up a town, a street, with kids on it? Like, I don't know if he would do something like that. He's more surgical, but
Yeah.
but he also Luthen is radical enough to think that Saw should have a place at the table. That's for sure. And the difference between Luthen and Saw is that Luthen wants to be a spy master and Saw wants to be a fucking warrior. Like, there is no tax being put on systems with Luthen cell activity because ain't nobody know that it exists. But partisan activity is a thing they regularly monitor because since the Clone Wars, since the Bad Batch era, Saw has been like loud and proud, like, you're never gonna find me, ha, and I'm gonna kill all of you.
Yep.
Like, I
More
would like
boisterous.
Saw is that guy. He's like, and what I love about the end of
He has that dog
episode
in him.
11 is that they are like the ship that is pulling Luthen into the tractor beam
Yeah.
is in that sector because they're like, we heard there's partisan activity in this sector. It's like, yeah, you jackass, you're right above him. Like, he's literally right there. And I'm sure Saw was
Hey,
down
Saw, wave at the Empire.
there. Yeah, I'm sure he was down there cackling, dude. Saw was probably like, who, pack it up, let's get up there, let's finish them after Luthen's gone. Like, let's go blow them up and steal some of
No,
their
the
shit.
thing I love the most about that whole scene
I'm
with
sorry,
them.
Connor. I'm interrupting you for a second. You just put the image in my head of just this of the Cantwell arrestor class just kind of chilling, like not fully like scuttled, but like trying to figure out what to do next. And all you see is Saw just like packing up a starfighter with like a rifle and a couple pistols, and Two Tubes is, just like, hey, where are you going? I want to blow off some steam. What do you mean? They're not going anywhere. Like that, just that, again, I love that Saw's fucking crazy. That's why he's one of my favorites. But
Oh yeah, dude. The craziness with Saw is just such a compelling part of his character to me, and like everyone like reducing him basically to a terrorist is like, it's not wrong, but it's like, it's only a part of it.
yeah, absolutely.
Like, it really is.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's very reductive, and I mean, there's a whole part of this conversation that can be dedicated to the way that we, generally speaking, don't like to, simmer in what like anti-fascist violence looks like. Video essayist I'm a big fan of, he was FD Signifier, was talking about how like anti-colonialist violence is something you don't see a lot of in film and television, and in his own like criticisms of the Black Panther movies, which there are a few people more qualified to actually have that conversation than FD Signifier, but that's neither here nor there. But like, Saw Gerrera is one of those few examples where like not only do you have this character, but this character of color who is like
Which is an added
incredibly
factor to it.
violent towards the fascist regime, and then you get into the whole very flawed mindset of like, oh well, you're just as bad because you do the bad thing.
Yeah.
Which again, no one bats an eyelash when like a crew of white dudes blows up the Death Star,
Very both sides.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and people love to both sides Saw, and it's asinine. And I also think that there's like, even though Saw makes the decision to basically let Anton Krieger go into battle and likely be captured or killed, I love the fact that like we see Saw in a rare tender moment. We get a rare moment of Saw's guard dropping.
Yeah.
And him having a moment of like, you want to let Anton die?
Yeah, you want to let Krieger go? And one of my favorite bits of that entire conversation was like, I think like 3 separate times saw as like, it's 30 men plus Krieger. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I just found that so funny. But the thing I found really funny, and we did talk about it before, but I just didn't get to talk about it, was just who is it? Who's the man? Like whatever his dialogue was, like, who is it? And then, Luthen's just like, it's Tubes. And Tubes is like, bruh. Like that just killed me.
It
so
is
much.
again that is some really Star Warsy dialogue that happens there. Like that is just the essence. That is, I think,
Like, I loyal only to you. or
Who's
whatever.
my mole?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Tubes. It's like that's Andor's. Just a small weapons malfunction. Everything's fine here. How are you?
Yep.
This is Andor's that.
That's probably the funniest moment I think in the entire show for me. Like I can't remember a moment where I laughed more than the "it's Tubes" moment.
It's such a funny dry.
Oh, I'm so
delivery.
glad I came back for It's Tubes. Sorry about that. I had a family call that I had to take. But yeah, the thing about It's Tubes that gets me, and I don't know if you guys touched on it, is that it's the delivery, but it's also like on a real shit level, like you just gambled with Tubes' life. Like
Yeah.
Saw might have been like, oh really? And
yeah,
just
certified fucking trigger happy lunatic Saw Gerrera.
like Tubes was probably like, bro, I swear, man, he's lying. Like after Luthen left, like Tubes probably had to go to Borg Gullet, man. He probably got Borg Gulleted.
Yeah, that's true. Because like at this point, Tubes has been around for a good while, I think.
Yeah, no, he's one of his top guys, and his brother. The two there's two Tubes.
Yeah, there's Benthic and Adriel, and I can't remember. It's Benthic, right? That's with Saw.
Benthic is the one, and the way I think it is Benthic is the one in live action, and Idrio is the one in animation, because one of them is in the Rebels episodes.
Yeah, and one of them is in Solo.
Yes,
that's true.
Yeah.
Let's see, Benthic. Let's see, Benthic, two Tubes. Let's see what Wikipedia says. Let's see.
So do you ever hear us talk like for a second and like you hear yourself and you're like, these are such like pathetically nerdy sentences?
Yep.
Well, actually, his brother was in the animation. And God, just like how have any of us ever touched another human being in a romantic way?
Okay, so Benthic,
how do we have lives?
Yeah, so Benthic is live action. Adrio is at least I think. Let's see, because Benthic was in Solo. He was a Cloud Rider before
He was a Cloud Rider.
Yeah. And I want to see if he was in Rebels. Let's see, appearances, Solo, Star Wars, Solo.
Yeah, and there's also one of them is in comics too.
Yeah, Benthic, because Adrio is the one that dies in Rogue One.
Yes.
Whacked by the
I didn't even know there were two different tubes. I did not know there were 4 total tubes.
There are 4 total tubes. Yeah, the Rogue One visual dictionary that has the two of them standing next to each other.
Yeah, you were right.
Idrio's and Rebels.
Yeah, Idrio's Rebels one.
Yeah. So yeah, brilliant moment.
There you go, everybody.
There you go. There's your Wikipedia canon update. But yeah, this
Benthic is live action. Idrio is animation. That's how to differ. That's how to differ.
Except when Idrio dies in Rogue One.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. What else?
Well, I don't know a better place to end this on than that. Alden.
Yeah.
Pluggable, sir.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, provided Twitter still exists. If not, find me on Instagram. It's all at that Alden Diaz, THATALDENDIAZ. Octa Radio Star Wars Podcast. That's my show, as well as our sister shows, including our Rebels rewatch, which is going to be kicking back up once Andor's over. We'll get back into Rebels. Nikki and I doing Rewatch Between Worlds. Find me on Casually Talk with Kat Knapsack, talking about Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Ice and Fire, and Willow. That is going to be covered on that channel. Sorry, Jared. Jared, there's going to be a tax on you. You're only allowed to comment on Casually Talk if you pay from now on, just for that. Just like you did on our last stream. No more. No more slander against Willow.
I just love the fact that every time you're live on something, I get to criticize your taste in food.
It's
You're
great.
2
It's a
weeks
great bit.
going.
It's a great
First, I got
bit.
to make fun of you for eating like an old fucking lady with your goddamn Fig Newtons.
Yeah, you were wrong there too. You've been shut out every time.
No, I remain correct.
Me, Alex, Molly, and Ken have all disagreed with you about different food now.
I
don't know what the fuck they're doing up in PA, but obviously you're a bunch of weirdos. All right, Connor, look at this man. Look at this one-eyed knight. This is what you're dealing with. Yeah.
Ken
then,
really let me down that night. Ken really let me down that night.
But Ken
like
is
Molly and
he's
Alex.
a Del Taco loyalist, though. He is.
And Molly and Alex, like I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get the appeal, but it's still gross.
Yeah.
But the way the glee in Ken's eyes, getting ready to defame Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Now I know how people felt when he turned heel.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
my first exposure to him was him turning heel.
Oh, Lions! What are you doing? The Lions Den?
Yeah, that was my first exposure, was him turning to the dark side. So
Those were the days.
for me, like I've only ever known Ken Knapsack, the anti-hero.
Mm-hmm.
He turned on me that night. Like,
that's true. He's dark side Ken now.
He's dark side Ken now.
Trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I wrote for StarTrek.com recently. I'm hoping to do a little bit more of that. If they want it. Got some ideas their way. We'll see what happens, and then there might be some career moves coming up soon, but hopefully I can talk about at some point. But outside of that, yeah, just find me vibing on Twitter until it burns. I will promise you this: I won't leave until it crumbles around me. I am not like exit strategy. No, I have the clip on my phone from Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not fucking leaving. Like that's me. Like I will not go. It will burn around me. I want to be one of the last people. Like I'm like Spike in the finale of Buffy of like, I want to see how it ends. Like, and just cackling as all the vampires burn. Spoilers. That's me. So yeah.
One of my favorite things about the potential Twitter end times now,
that it's gonna get wilder.
Did anybody see what Cardi B tweeted last night?
It was like a very I don't want to say things that will get your channel like demonetized or whatever, but like it, to my understanding, it was a very sexually explicit video that involved multiple people.
Yes, it was somebody's
basically pornography.
Video. It was someone's what can only be described as a pornographic music video, and
fantastic.
A Grammy Award winning, verified with like a couple million followers musician heard Twitter's probably going to cave in about 5 minutes and went, I had this on hand.
That's what I want. I want everyone to fire their drafts, like fire at will. I want the final night. If we know that it's going to collapse and we get confirmation of its collapse and it starts going dark in other countries, like I'm going to start adding all my enemies. I'm firing every draft. I'm going to post the most cringe memes. I'm gonna go full Scotty Jarod if I know that the website is crashing.
I look forward to it. Just don't get yourself canceled again in the process. Connor, where can the lovely people find you, buddy?
Twitter at @DepaBanana, provided it stays afloat for a while. If not, Instagram, which I will use slightly less, is ConmanJFO. I also co-host at For the Republic, Love Letters Star Wars Animation. We just recorded our discussion about Andor episode 11 there. It'll come out within the next few days or so. I don't really know the release schedule. I write questions for Star Wars in a Galaxy Epic Confrontations, and I also co-host there. We do have a match we did record, Buck versus Jerry. I think that's going to come out fairly soon. I really like that match. was probably one of my favorite matches of the whole EC of what we've done so far as of yet. It was really good, and you'll see why. And
I'm super excited because I was supposed to cut a promo in it and schedules weren't lining up, so I had to just send my promo in. And I'm very excited to see how Eli weaved that in.
you'll be it's going to be exciting. I think you'll like it. And then sweditor.ig.com/fiction. I work with a wonderful team of creatives and help craft a connected universe of Star Wars fan stories. We adhere and keep to the ever-expanding canon that Lucasfilm has, while also adding our own stories and characters in the meantime. I have some in the works, none published yet. One I can talk about that's coming up soon-ish. It's called The Hidden Kyber. It's set shortly after the events of Jedi Fallen Order, and it'll star Sir Junda and Cal Kestis, and I think it'll come out like January now. I don't really know, but check out the stories that we had. Check out the stories on the website there. They're really good. Jared?
Yeah.
Where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Facebook being friends with Alex Jones now, I guess. I really wish I didn't have a cold, because I feel like if I got that in the middle of a show, being at 100%, that would have been a very different reaction. Also, I forgot to play this after Alden was done giving his plugs.
Sensational.
I had to give it to him. But no, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram, riding out the storm until everything comes crashing down at Dark Jedi 2552. And you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where, if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Nick Johnson, Keandre Lloyd, and Paco. And now I need to. Alden wasn't here for me to explain Paco's new name yet, and I don't think Connor's heard it yet either. So last week, Paco changed his name on the Patreon to $965 million. Because he knew who his clip was. Well, since that number has since changed, also thank you to Paco, or as he's going by in the Patreon, $1.5 billion, baby.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
How does he exist?
I want to know who did the who the voice was of that from the information wars. Like,
it's the fact that it cuts from that guttural ass, like the ending, into the from the front line. Like, yeah, like whose voices, who's getting royalties from that? I gotta know.
Who's getting
Well, I can
royalties?
tell you
and
this:
who-
they're not getting paid much.
Yeah.
No,
It's like,
not anymore.
Did they sell their soul out for that or what?
That's all
Like,
garnished now.
What
Oh,
happened?
man.
Oh, it's so funny.
Also, we're still on.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't gonna say anything insane. Today's
Not yet.
knowledge fight was them covering the day after Trump announced, and
Oh, dude. Apparently Garland is. I don't know if you guys saw in the Discord, but Eli's.
I got the CNN app update. Yeah, but no,
that's interesting.
Alex was very like. he keeps trying to be like, I'm not going to come down either side between DeSantis and Trump. They're trying to stir up a civil war between conservatives by trying to make us pit them against each other. But I'm not going to come down on a side, but I prefer Trump. Every 5 minutes was just, I don't know who I prefer yet, but I'm going to praise Trump and criticize DeSantis right after I say that, like, every time. And like, fuck them both. Obviously y'all have been around here for a little bit. That's not a secret to anybody here.
Yep.
But yeah, right now for our patrons, $5 and above, Satil Shan versus Yoda Battle of the Grandmasters is up now, and Kit Fisto versus Mason Windu will be dropping on December 1st, and we're going to try to get the tournament set up as soon as possible. I said this last night on Bombadcast. I'm going to reiterate it again here. We are going to be going on a hiatus, and when I say that, I actually mean it this time. Every time I say we're going to take a little breaky ends up actually meaning I'm going to keep working on a ton of content and then do 18 guest spots in a week because I don't actually take breaks. But we're going to be taking a little break after next week. The goal is going to be to do an episode of a retrospective for Phase 4 of the MCU. And then from there, hi, Nana. Walk through. But rare Nana cameo. But yeah, we're going to be taking a little break after we do our Phase 4 retrospective. And obviously we'll be wrapped up with Andor by then. So yeah, thank you all so very much for watching and listening. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the things, and may the Force be with you always.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar!